We're celebrating 100 years of the Spa 24 Hours this weekend. Welcome everybody to the Crowdstrike 24 Hours of Spa for 2024 and the start of qualifying. It is a very muggy evening here. The teams have been out already today with free practice and pre-qualifying, but now the serious business begins of deciding most of the grid, although the top 20 cars out of qualifying on that combined average will go through to Superpole that we're going to bring you tomorrow. It is an amazing entry as ever for the biggest and best GT3 race in the world. The track is dry, brackets for now, and with a temperature of 18.3 degrees, you can see the humidity 88%. There is talk of rain creeping in by Saturday evening and a rather wet Sunday, but you never know with Spa. It could suddenly turn in the opposite direction and it could be a dry and sunny race. Who knows? One thing we do know is that it is a wide open race and one or two more pointers may well come during this session. David Addison and John Watson trackside, and Watty, as ever, this is going to be not only an enthralling session but all building up to a wide open and very exciting race.
Well, David, there's lots of things here that are a little bit different from 1 year ago. Notably, we're almost looking at it right now, albeit in the pit lane. 80% of this racetrack has been resurfaced, and the consequence of that is we're getting faster lap times than we've ever seen previously. And what that's going to do to the race, well, that's anybody's guess, but one thing that came through very strongly and clearly this afternoon was that the 111 Audi at the CSA Racing entry was consistently quick across two of the drivers, at least Stephen Palette and Arthur Rouget. So it's like the usual thing, balance of performance will come into play. We don't know quite where that's going to work its way through. There have been some balance of performance changes to some of the front-running cars, so they're going to be saying, oh, well, you know, we're down on performance, but the low washout now, full of fuel, new tires, the truth will be out, David.
It will indeed, and expect also, as we had last year, to see some of those Bronze Cup cars go well. Not just with the bronze drivers, but with the gold or the platinums that you can have as a co-driver, because, as we saw last year, put them behind the wheel, and the car will be of a very quick pace indeed. Bear in mind, this is not only the Crowdstrike 24 Hours of Spa, it is also a round of the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli, and it is the second round, only the second round, of Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS Endurance Cup. And having said all of that, the reason I was mentioning all the titles was that the championship leader out of Fanatec GT Europe, you just seen, and it's disappeared, the number 998 BMW that Max Hesse, Dan Harper and Augusto Farfus drove to victory at Paul Ricard back in April. We've been in action with the Sprint Series since, but this only the second round of endurance, and therefore the teams haven't had their traditional run into the darkness that they will have had in previous events. They did do, some of them did do, a night race at Misano in sprint, but as far as endurance is concerned, this is all just a little bit different.
Yes, it is, and we're running in the hills, not quite the mountains, in the Ardennes, heavily forested all the way around the racetrack, and you run up one side of the valley all the way up to Les Combes, through the notorious Eau Rouge, and over the top at Radillon, which has caught out the quick and the brave on many occasions in previous events. This is the 100th, it's the centenary, not the 100th event, but this is the centenary of the first event back in 1924. I was only a boy then. Well, I was wondering if you were here in your pram to cheer on your heroes. I was only a boy.
Indeed. You've just seen the new livery adorning 46 BMW of Raffaele Marciello, Maxime Martin, Valentino Rossi. Maxime's busy this weekend because he's sharing a BMW with his dad in the historic touring car race that will be on Saturday morning. And they're Justin Blattner, part of the Rutronic racing team, getting set ready to venture out onto the circuit, which, as I say, is dry. That is the good news. But, as ever, people are going to have to think about traffic in these qualifying sessions, particularly Q2, 3 and 4. That's when you get into the realms of having the track at its busiest, because the pro cars don't need 4 drivers, they can have 3, but it will get busy once everybody is on track. Number 11, Kirby Pauwels, the Belgian driver, former rallycrosser, like his father came out of rallycross, but has made quite a good fist of circuit racing in Carrera Cup Benelux and Carrera Cup France. The lights go green then at the end of the pit lane, and as the clock starts to tick, we are in business then now as Porsche, McLaren, Mercedes venture out for Q1 here at Spa.
There shouldn't be more than a maximum of 39 cars on track in Q1. Because, David?
They are the 4-driver combinations.
Correct.
And you can see the 3-driver crews waiting their turns. 32, that's the Charles Weerts, Dries van Thor and Sheldon van der Linde BMW. Interesting to see how the likes of Dries van Thor, Raffaele Marciello, Kevin Estra, for example, just 3 names at random, adapt after one 24-hour race in hypercars to a 24-hour race in a GT3 machine, which will feel very different.
Well, some of these drivers have taken part in the 24 hours of Nürburgring and the 24 hours of Le Mans, and they're here this weekend. So basically, on the bounce, 3 significant and extremely challenging in their own way 24-hour events. I mean, I don't know what the drivers feel. Obviously, they enjoy these long endurance events, but each one has got its own difficulty. The one thing about Nürburgring was the race was stopped for most of its race because of fog.
That's right. It was more adapting, if you like, from a hypercar to a GT3 car, because they have so many different nuances, and these cars in comparison may not feel quite as quick as they are. They're going through the traffic. 27, which is the Fran Rueda, Mark Radcliffe, Ollie Milroy, Rob Bell, McLaren, and that has Ollie Milroy, the Dubai-based Brit, at the wheel of it for Q1. And you can see already, with a lot of activity having been taking place here today, rubber junked offline, gravel there to catch you out if you do run up the escape road at Les Combes.
Yes, I'm just looking at the rubber on the left of screen right for the drivers coming out of Radio up the hill. A lot of rubber again coming in through Blanchimont. So the racing line is something that will eventually get narrower and narrower as this weekend progresses. And there's still, aside from the 24 hours of Spa itself, I mean, your GT2, GT4, what else is there? There's a historic event for GT cars and for touring cars.
Correct, yes.
And the McLaren,
I think that's it. It's a very busy
talk
program.
about a program.
Now, I also mentioned a little while ago Dustin Blackner, the Rutronic Porsche. That car and the sister car and also the Hub Auto Porsche have all had new engines put in before today. Terminal damage had been identified. That was the way that the steward's bulletin was phrased. Now, whether that was anything to do with the stop-start nature of driving into town for the parade or something that had happened in a previous event, no one's really very keen to explain. But the new engines have gone into the Rutronic Porsches and also, as I say, the Hub Auto entry, which is an interesting one because it's the first Spa 24-hour for Hub Auto. We've seen them here in the past with Ferraris.
So, yes, it's unusual to see 3 Porsche having to replace their motors prior to Thursday's running, and of course going into qualifying, and then we've got the shootout tomorrow. And let's hope that those reasons for engine changes were to do with something which was not necessarily to do with what they've been doing on track. There was this impressive and massive parade of cars into the town of Spa itself, and it took quite a long time to get it all processed.
That's right, yeah.
And it was extremely warm apparently last night in Spa, very humid as well. So you never know.
Is the man behind Crowdstrike, George Kurtz, the American, in number 4 Mercedes. He's another driver, fresh, if that's the right phrase, from Le Mans, with Colin Braun, Ian James, Nick Katzberg as his co-drivers. So that's another very competitive car within its class. You can anticipate the Crowdstrike Mercedes to be pitching for class honours. It runs in the Pro-Am competition, thank you, John. And it's George Kurtz at the wheel of it in this first session.
So basically, drivers having been out on track earlier, or maybe about a couple of hours ago, now circuit has changed. Although it's still very humid, the temperature, ambient and track temperature is beginning to drop away a little bit. But it's just there's a lot of rubber on the track. There's a lot of gravel around the racetrack likewise.
Down towards the chicane. Can't really call it the bus stop anymore because it isn't. And even I think the Spa personnel have dropped the tag. There's a photograph in the very impressive event programme of the weekend showing the year that the bus stop chicane was put in. And these days it is just the chicane at the end of the lap. But through it has gone George Kurtz, and he turns now out of La Source. To the right is the pit lane. Remember, for the Crowdstrike 24 Hours of Spa, it is one long pit lane combining the top pits and the bottom pits, the F1 pits and the Heritage pits together. And then you've got that traditional run through Eau Rouge and up Radillon as you look there at Alban Varuti. Number 26 Audi, the Santalot run car. Alban Varuti, Middle East Supercars champion many moons ago.
And the Aston ahead of it kicked up a lot of dust on there, just coming through the exit of Stavelot, or which is now renamed as the University
Campus, I think.
Campus, yes, Campus.
Yes. Yeah.
So he got a windscreen full of dust and maybe a little bit of gravel likewise.
So Varuti heading up towards the timing line. Now this will be the coolest, even though it's still quite humid, it'll be the coolest running they've had all day. A 2 minutes 15.234, the best lap of the day from Lucas Auer, and that was in free practice, just a fraction slower in pre-qualifying was the top time of Arthur Rougier. Varuti now goes fastest, 2:16.903.
So I would think as an opening flying lap, that's a respectable time, I think. But saying that, I think earlier in the day we were seeing up to 40 cars covered by about 1.5 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just unreal.
It is, and I think in that pre-qualifying, everybody was within 2 seconds. So it is just a staggeringly competitive race, this. That's Sam de Haan for the WRT squad. Sam de Haan sharing one of the BMWs with Jens Klingman, Callan Williams and Ahmad Al-Hafi. It is the OQ by Oman Racing entry, and Ahmad Al-Hafi is the Omani driver. It's another of the cars entered, and we'll touch on many of them in the Intercontinental GT Challenge as Dustin Blattner goes through the traffic, getting himself up past Ollie Milroy, whose lap's gone away, hasn't it? Because he's backed off in the middle sector, you can see, to the tune of 2.2 seconds there.
Well, it's the 26 Audi that suddenly just popped up quickest on a 2:16.9. And the Aston Martin, well, there's a little error through the chicane.
Yeah, which Audi was that?
38.
So that's the Haas RT car of Olivier Bertels, Brad Schumacher, Armand Fumal, and Julius Ardemovius. And who's behind the wheel of it at the moment?
And there is the view drivers have as number 9 Porsche makes its way down, and Eau Rouge.
That's Dustin Blattner.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big commitment, and now that the surface is, or the circuit has been resurfaced, there's bite, more bite than ever, and that'll include coming through Eau Rouge and over the top at Radio.
It was Olivier Bertels, incidentally, that we saw in the Audi having his drama. Through Les Combes goes Dustin Blattner, 11th quickest thus far. Dustin, who's got a lot of experience in Porsches, coming out of, if you like, national level racing before coming into the IGTC Gulf 12 Hours at the back end of last year in Abu Dhabi. Goes now down through Bruxelles. Road keeps on falling away at this point. Past the motorbike cut through on the inside. And this, the view from the Rutronic Porsche. And a great noise as well it makes as he thunders downhill now, heading towards Pouhon.
Lift, down a gear, then you release the car just in the second part. Having to do a little bit of work on the wheel, it's in 5th gear. Might pull 6th momentarily, no, he's going to hang it in 5th all the way down into Fagnes, down to 3rd gear for the right-hand sweep, then cut back again. Maybe he wanted to be a little bit more to the right for that cut, but anyway, gets through it cleanly, then down to Campos. Get the nose of the Porsche in, and then on the gas, ride the curb, but be careful not to drop the wheel off, catch the gravel, then the exit through Paul Frere Courbe, and then basically from here on, if you've got a good car balance and you've got good grip from your car, coming up to Blanchimont, like a big hold of your breath, and think about it, squeeze in, and yes, I did it flat.
Ride the curb on the outside, down towards the chicane then. And even this part of Spa slightly climbs as you turn into the second element of the chicane. You're going uphill, and then in front of the pit building and the brasserie and the bar on the top, you go over the line, and now the light is starting to fade as well. We're going to be in the darkness, I would have thought, by the time we get to the end of Q4, but there's just something about circuits when the light starts to fade like this, and the natural lighting disappears, the lighting in the buildings and on the car starts to take charge. There's a different feel in the air as well.
Well, look, it's the same, but in reverse as when you come out of darkness into morning light. I'll use my description of morning light with circumspection.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and kicking up at the dust coming through Fagnes. The two experiences are very special, whichever way you look at it. I mean, this is going into darkness, but for me it was always the positivity of coming out of darkness and all of a sudden a brand new day is awaiting.
Bursting into dawn. Yes, it is an experience, isn't it? As there is Leonardo Moncini the Italian GT and Carrera Cup Italy racer. And he's going really nicely here for the Tresor Attempto racing team. One of the beauties of these qualifying sessions is not only are we looking at times, we're identifying different cars, and each one within its class is competitive. There are no real turkeys out there. They're all very capable cars of doing, whether it's a class win or an outright win. And that Audi is yet another that you can factor into the mix. As up towards the line now comes Leonardo Moncini. He's about to go over the timing line. The Tresor Attempto entry then goes by. That's one of the Gold Cup entries. And third is where he is in the times. Fastest, Adam Smalley.
Yes, Adam Smalley is quickest overall in the McLaren and the 188. I mean, we have 6 gold entries, 10 silver, 21 bronze, biggest category outside of, well, I think it is the largest category, in fact, it's bigger than the Pro, and then 6 Pro-Am to combine with then the Pro cars themselves. But Adam Smalley has been doing a pretty impressive job for the Garage 59 entry, and right now 2 minutes 15.8. Well, that's about 6/10 away from the time Lucas Auer did earlier in the day in his Mercedes. But Arthur Rouget, another driver who's been really pushing to be the quickest driver consistently all day, and when they ran earlier in the week.
Yeah, Rouget, we've not really seen much of behind the wheel this year. He's been busy running the CSAT, but he's lost none of his ability. Arthur Rouget, a very quick sim racer, as we saw in the days of Fanatec GT Esports Pro Series and behind the wheel of real world cars. And this, looking at the way the lap is building up, could well, should well, put him at the top of the times, shouldn't it? There is the Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari going through Blanchimont, but Arthur Rouget looking really good behind on track.
Yes, and Cheever in that 93 Sky Tempesta Ferrari is second quickest right now. And Rouget is closing down. Now, whether this is a holding lap for Eddie Cheever or not, I think he was going into the pits. So he was not really pushing particularly hard in the last sector. But Rouget could go top of the times, waiting to go across. He has 2:15.8, but only by 21,000th of a second. Doesn't matter. He's got the bragging rights.
Top is top. Maxime Martin looks on, getting ready for his stint. He's been on track already, as I say, in historic as well as modern machinery. Other drivers still looking at the timing screens and the pictures, waiting their turn behind the wheel. Boots and VDS mechanics hoping they don't have too much work to do tonight, because although tomorrow for the GT World Challenge Europe teams, it's not that busy day. There's only Superpole for 20 cars. The last thing they need going into a 24-hour race is a big repair job.
Indeed, but they do have night practice when this all finishes.
That's true.
So while we're going back and cracking up a nice bottle of Italian red and chilling, well, we're chilling, but the wine won't be chilling.
No.
Don't chill down a red. So there'll be, every competitor will be out doing, and they have to qualify at night time also, because you can't just drop a driver in when the lights go out at 4:30 on Saturday afternoon and give him the keys at 10 o'clock at night and expect him to perform if he hasn't had a chance to drive at night time.
And also tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, they will be the warm-up session. It's on the Friday evening rather than on race day morning, just to give the teams a bit more time, really, to work on the cars if anything goes wrong. Now, Faisal Al-Zubar, you're looking at here in treble 7, 9th fastest in the Mercedes. That is the Almanar Racing by Get Speed entry. Dominic Baumann, Mikael Grenier, Philip Ellis, the other drivers, as he threads his way through the traffic. Gets that past the Mad Panda Mercedes. Mercedes everywhere at the moment.
Yes, 3 of them all pretty much close together. So Al-Zubar gets clear, and now he's got a Lamborghini directly ahead of him. I'm not sure whether that was one of the Barwell entries or not. Back down to Arthur Rouget coming through, up through Paul Frère.
Let's listen in.
Only 2 more push laps, and you have a fucking bronze in front.
Apologies for the exchange from the pit wall, but Arthur Rouget being told he's got 2 push laps, and the point behind all of that was the drama is that he's going to encounter a bronze cup car, which may well slow him down, so he needs to work out where he can make the pass as he comes over the timing line.
Strange, he stays so far over to the right. I don't know what the purpose of doing that was. I've never seen a driver do that when they're on a push lap, but clearly Rouget had a reason behind it, but I'd like to know what that was.
Yeah, unusual for sure, as drivers now getting installed in the car ready for Q2. So there the Rothko door goes down on the McLaren, and other drivers clambering on board Christopher Hauser, Ricardo Feller, Alex Arca. Good combination of drivers for
That's a that if you're looking to have an idea that might be a winning car,
yeah,
look at this one, because Ricardo Feller, Alex Arca, and Christopher Hauser, 3 top guys as we look at Ollie Milroy in his McLaren, dropping down the hill, coming into Pouhon.
And heading to the checkered flag for it. He's out at the end of Q1. And Arthur Rougier provisionally the fastest, 2 minutes 15.808. But of course, at the moment, John, the cars that they're heaviest, aren't they, on fuel?
Yes, so they would have used, the car would have been filled to the point that they could do these 4 qualifying sessions. In the case of some 4 qualifying sessions, for others it'll be 3.
Ollie Milroy in the McLaren. He's become something of a McLaren expert, having raced them in different GT championships for the last few years, and of course at Le Mans as well. And finally, after a few years in the, not wilderness, that's a little bit unfair, but he'd fallen off the European radar, being busy racing successfully in Asia. Ollie Milroy is back and reminding people of his ability, which is good to see. So he's hustling on, but he's got traffic up the road, so Dustin Blattner's Porsche, he will just about reach as he heads up towards the checkered flag here.
Yeah, it just depends whether those cars peel off into the pit lane as yes, they all peeled off. There's no point in continuing on. One of the interesting technical issues that's arisen is that with the new surface and the increased level of grip, there is, in the middle of Eau Rouge, okay, who's that? Oh, Ricardo Petrese looking after Lorenzo. I think some cars are now, because the speed's so high, and when they hit the compression, there's a big load going into them, and they're struggling with steering. Just suddenly the steering gets really heavy, and there's a horrible sensation because you're sitting there and you're wanting all the feedback, and there's a momentary moment where what's going on, then it releases and it continues up the hill. And I think that's just a reaction, a function of where the circuit is. And of course, these cars are being developed continuously anyway, so they're getting quicker and quicker by the season. So it's going to be an interesting event, but particularly in these next 3 qualifying sessions, particularly with the pro drivers, we're going to be on the limit all the way around this 7-kilometer lap, which is 4.6 miles, I think it is.
But it's hardly confidence inspiring, is it, to have that happen to you at a very fast part of the racetrack?
No. In a word, no. I mean, I don't know what the problem is, and teams will be looking at it and saying what they can do. I mean, I don't know if there's technical things they can change or adjustments they can make, but you know, it's not an unknown phenomenon that's happened in other circuits and with other forms of motor racing where you get a big sudden load of downforce going into the car. And it just, I mean, I remember, look, Formula One cars, some of them are so floppy and flexible, the whole front bulkhead used to distort, and the steering lock actually bound up. And the poor kid was sitting there doing 100 and whatever mile an hour through some mega corner, and suddenly the steering wheel is just, he can't turn it.
Wonderful shot from the drone looking down on the pit lane here. You can see all the cars at the, well, they're meant to be 45 degrees. 1 or 2 might be at sort of 43 or 48. But anyway, they're meant to be at 45 degrees, and that's where the cars will accelerate away on instruction when the fast lane opens, ready for Q2.
Now, is it a protractor we used to use in school to measure degrees? Somebody should have a protractor down there checking them all out. You earn money out of that. Lots of fines.
At the end of Q1, Arthur Rougier ahead of Adam Smalley, Eddie Cheever third from Ollie Milroy, Paul Everard fifth, Leonardo Mancini sixth, Frank Bird seventh from Alban Baruti, Al Faisal Al Zubar, and Sam Neary 10th. He's been here a lot, but he's never actually started a race here, Sam Neary. Jens Klingman 11th, ahead of Yannick Mettler, then Charles Clark, Alex Buncombe, and Aurelien Panis to round out the top 15. Miguel Ramos, Louis Pret, Marvin Kirchhoff as McLaren is topping the Bronze Cup at the moment. Silver going the way of the number 26 Audi. That's the car that we saw being driven by Ivan Klimenko, but he shares it with Alban Baruti, Marcus Pavarud and Gilles Stadsbader. And in Pro-Am, well, I've just touched on the fact that you've got Alex Buncombe the fastest, his co-drivers, Josh Cahill, new to Team RJN, Alex's brother Chris Buncombe, and a very welcome return to the Crowdstrike 24 Hours of Spa, Jan Mardenborough. Very
exciting to have Jan back racing in Europe. He's spending a lot of time in Japan, and having back with Bob Neville, RJN Racing, raced, of course, for the Nissan when that was a major program, and winning. Well, Nissan won this race some, what, 8-10 years ago now, I believe, didn't they? No?
Something like that. Yeah, okay. It's a long time ago. Won the championship, didn't they, about 10 years ago, yeah. But no, you're right, it's good to have them back. A quick reminder of who's fastest then. It's the CSA racing car. Arthur Rougier did the time. Stephen Palette, Romain Carton and Adam Eteki are the other 3 drivers. So, Q2 we will turn our attention to. That's going to start in just under 2 minutes' time. Interesting sort of looking ahead for Saturday evening that once the light starts to fade, it fades quite quickly, doesn't it? Because it looks much, much darker than it did, what, 15 minutes ago.
When it goes, it goes.
Indeed. Let's have a quick reminder of what happened in Q1. Lights went green at the end of the pit lane, and the 4 driver entries headed out on circuit, with Alban Baruti in 26 Audi being one on his toes early doors. So too was number 188, Adam Smalley at the wheel. And Ollie Milroy threading his way through the traffic, getting ahead of the 888 Mercedes, team and number. Eddie Cheever was good as ever for Sky Tempesta Racing in the Ferrari. The team, of course, back with Italian machinery this year after an unsuccessful foray with Mercedes, a better time with McLaren. 1 or 2 other drivers ended up clipping the curb, kicking up the dust, and Arthur Rougier was able to string together a really good effort. And even though the team said you've only got 2 more push laps, he didn't need them because the flag came out when he was top. So we have got then just under a minute before the cars venture out for Q2. Now it's going to get really busy because this is where you throw all the pro cars into the mix. Remember, you're taking the average of the times, so it's only if there is a tie for the combined time do you go to an individual quicker times to break that tie. But here you're looking at the average of the times together. Now as the drone heads up the pit lane, Q2 coming up. Arthur Rougier the fastest. He can reflect on that demon lap. Welcome back to Spa to Voice of American GT Racing. Ryan Marine, he's in the pits with Arthur.
Arthur Rougier, the fastest of the bunch in that first session. What was the conditions like? Much cooler than we've seen so far this week.
I mean, so far this week, the new tarmac is really fast. I mean, the lap times for sure are a lot faster than they used to be. Yeah, not so clean qualifying session for me. I had a lot of traffic in my lap, as you could see on TV, I guess. But it is what it is. In the end, we put a lap time together. So yeah, a bit disappointed because I think we deserved something like 3-4 tenths better. But it's like this. Always nice to start by being the fastest out of Q1. But let's see how it goes.
The traffic only gets worse now for your teammates.
Yeah, and I had less cars on track than my teammates, so yeah, it's like this. We're gonna see it's gonna be hard to manage for them, but it's part of the game and we know it, so yeah, let's see how it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shrewd move though in a way, John, isn't it? You put your fastest driver in first when there are fewer cars. Don't waste Arthur Rougier in the traffic. Give him the clearest circuit possible to set that time.
I think that's clear thinking by the team. So use the opportunity to track fewer cars. And at the same time, you know, the track conditions are probably about as good as they will be as we wait to see these wonderful slow-mo shots coming out of the chicane. And then we go back live too. And you can see, and as you pointed out, David, this, once the light goes, and of course the forest all around is pretty dense, so the light getting through is going to be restricted.
It is indeed, but that great shot looking down on that double gauche, the double left of Pouhon. And the road is busy. If you're at the front of the queue, good. If you're in the body of the pack, then you are going to struggle. You've got cars all around. Look, you've got them 2, almost 3 wide there, going down towards the Piff-Paff as you go on board now with number 4 Mercedes. George Kurtz drove it, Ian James drives it in Q2. Great noise the grunty Mercedes makes down now towards the Paul Frere. This is the right-hander coming up, speed building at this point, up towards the end of the lap.
Yeah, it's hard to beat a flat, plain V8 crank motor, whether it's in a Mercedes or it's in. They've got that wonderful sounding Ford Mustang that really, I just fell in love with it at Paul Ricard. So the Proton Engineering entry will hopefully be out on track likewise. But look at the traffic jam all the way through Blanchimont, and everybody just jockeying to get into position to gain gain the advantage coming up into the chicane. And those are the tail almost having to drive off track just to avoid contact. And then some getting a little bit impatient and sticking the nose down the inside. And everybody backing off to get a good run off the chicane.
Yeah, some were trying to get through the traffic, others were weaving to get warmth into the tyres. There's an Aston Martin there looking decidedly towy, isn't there? Which is 35, one of the Valkenhorst cars. That's the Romain Larue, Lorcan Hannafin, Maxime Robin car.
Yeah, I think that was the car that was sort of trying to stick his nose up the inside into the chicane, but it is going to be a much more difficult challenge tonight with 65 cars on track.
Yeah, Lorcan Hannafin, class winner in the Le Mans Cup race at the 24 Hours 2 weeks ago, but it's Romain Larue in the wheel of that Aston. 92 Porsche, Mathieu Jaminet. Well, we know that Mathieu Jaminet is very quick, whether it's in hypercar or in GT3, and there he is, number 92. This is the SSR Herbert entry that he shares with Matt Campbell and Fred Makovicky. Now, this is a real shot in the arm, isn't it, for the Herbert team, because we know they're Porsche specialists. They've had great success in Dubai 24 Hours, Creventic 24-hour series races over the years, Carrera Cup Deutschland, but to be given a factory crew of drivers, that finally, if you like, proves that the Herbert team, the Renault's team, has been recognised.
Yes, validation of what the team has been doing. And of course, Porsche, by doing so, they're strengthening the respective classes that these Porsche, they're not all running in the pro category. So it is an accolade to the Herbert team. Mathieu Jaminet did have fastest sector initially. Now that's gone away. He's got personal best. But it will be an interesting opening lap. Fresh tyres again for Jaminet. And he's got the Sky Tempesta Ferrari up ahead of him about a corner and a bit. So hopefully the Ferrari will pick up at skirt and get on with the program and not find it. Oh, Jaminet middle sector purple gone back to green. So literally almost by the car coming through sector, you're seeing the times just drift one way and another.
But interesting, isn't it, that this is the first flying lap and straight away they're on it. It's not a start-up lap, they're on the pace. There's a very slow car there heading into the chicane. And look at this for Jaminet, he's got all of this traffic ahead of him, he's just got to commit, he dives through, he's got past those, he needs to get past, he's down the BMW of Rover up the road. Let's have another look. Raffaele Marcello has done an absolute best in the first sector. To the timing line now comes Jaminet, he's got to be in the 15s, not good enough, 2:16, but that's the first effort of the session.
So Marcello fastest almost by a half a second. There he is, coming down to Pumo, and he just throws the BM into that long two-part corner, carries the speed of the exit, but he's got the Ford Mustang directly ahead. And that car, the Mustang, I mean, was proved very quick indeed in a straight line at Paul Ricard. Pretty much the quickest car throughout the weekend on the long Mistral straight. So Marcello quicker in the twiddly bits, clearly catching the Mustang, but here, coming up to the exit of Paul Frere, really more challenging as he backed out of it. I can't believe he's backed out of it there. Just maybe the camera angle indicated, but he's going to be closing up to the back of the Mustang, up through Blanchemont and then up into the chicane.
32 BMW, the Weerts Van Thor van der Linde entry under investigation for a pit lane infringement. Mathieu Jaminet then, the fastest thus far. And Raffaele Marcello may well annihilate that 2:16.181. Let's have a look. The graphic showing you the overall classification at the moment is up towards the line. David Pittard goes second, Simon Gachet third. 8 thousandths between the top two. Marcello fastest now, 2:15.663. That's a really good lap time.
Yeah, it's quickest of the qualifying that we've seen. There is the get speed number 3. And is that James Kell behind the wheel, or waiting to see who it is? Oh, that's why we're getting the wonderful slow mo. Look at the McLaren's nose right up the inside and on the grass. Well, coming up into the chicane, and that's a lot of time lost. That's the Bob Neville car, so it could be one of the two Buncombe brothers behind the wheel.
Josh Cagle, I think, looking at that Lumi ranking. You were quite right, it was James Kell. Now, Andrea Caldarelli, he has not won the 24 Hours of Spa. He's won pretty much everything else that SRO has to offer you. Remember that amazing 2019 season when they won overall and endurance and sprint and teams. He hasn't quite had a season like that, but Caldarelli, I think, would probably admit this is the one that it's an itch that still needs scratching. This is one he hasn't won and he wants to tick it off the list.
Oh, undoubtedly. I mean, all these pro drivers particularly. Christopher Mies, by the way, is up 0.2 of a second in Sector 1 in the Ford. Sorry, did I mention the Ford Mustang? Oh, first sector, that's up the hill. Is that a straight line all the way up into Lake Coop? Oh, it is a straight line. Maybe that's why he's got that purple sector.
Well, let's see what he can do with the rest of the lap, because then he's got some twiddly bits to cope with in the dragster. Andrea Caldarelli, though, personal best, and he's got to be in the 2:15s. Now, that is where you've got to be. The message for car 32 about the pit lane infringement cancelled. Wrong information from marshals, it says on our timing screen. So WRT can breathe easy. Where does Caldarelli go then? Look for the green Lamborghini. He'll break the beam and he'll go 9th quickest.
He'll be disappointed with that, but Christopher Mies is the car we've got to keep an eye on here in that wonderful sounding Ford Mustang. The throb of Detroit iron. No, it's probably actually aluminium, that V8. Flat plane cranking. That again, it just looks so purposeful, and it's doing a pretty impressive job. So where will this put the Ford Mustang at the end of this lap? He accelerates off that last turn.
Oh, only up to 19th in the end.
Strange.
Yeah. So we've now got Alessio Rivera's Ferrari top, Mauro Engel's Mercedes second, David Vidal's Ferrari third, Mathieu Jaminet down to fourth. Christopher Mies made his Le Mans debut 2 weeks ago. Bizarre in a way to think that given how many events he's won and all the years he's been racing, he'd never raced in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but only now, really, with it being open to GT3 cars, was he able so to do. 007 Aston Martin here, which is the car that Mathieu Drudi is hustling along. Of course, new to Aston this year, but the reigning sprint champion.
Lost a little bit of time entering into the right-hander at Fagnes. Was a bit wide. You could see there was a lot of dust getting kicked up from the back of the car. That'll get sort of embedded into the tyre, and will take maybe a couple of corners to clean off. So Matteo Drudi, who we know, I mean, is a star in Audis, and he's certainly going to be a star in the Aston Martin, backs off again, just to give himself track position as he comes up into the chicane.
So Matteo Drudi heading up towards us. Raffaele Marciello was the fastest, but Alessio Rivera's Ferrari now at the top, and you can see the comparison as Drudi doesn't really improve on that lap. So he does a 2:18.9. Behind him is 93 Ferrari. That's the Sky Tempesta entry. And Alessio Rivera still the fastest. The Sky Tempesta Ferrari now in the hands of Jonathan Hui, the Hong Kong driver, who we've not seen that much of in endurance, but he's been doing some sprint championship rounds this year. Good to have him back in endurance. As ever, of course, what we're seeing on the timing screen has to be borne in relation to a whole page of messages about track limits at turn 4, at turn 16, at turn 11, and that instantly takes the lap time away. There's no post-session investigation. The cameras are there policing it, and effectively you bang to rights. There is Alessio Rivera then, Italian GT champion a couple of 3 years ago, and he goes through, still the fastest, at 2:15.382. That's been a really good lap time.
Yes, excellent lap by Rivera. Didn't match it on this last flying lap, but not so concerned. And there's Jules Gounod. I'm wondering what he can achieve. And you're going to point out
that sat next to him is Michel Gatting, his partner, who is not racing here this weekend because sadly the Iron Dames Lamborghini has withdrawn, which is a real shame.
Yes, Sarah Bouvet, I beg you, I was just trying to get it.
Yeah.
Sarah Bouvet was racing in Watkins Glen last weekend in the American version of the Fanatec Championship, and there was a track that was wet dry, and then she stayed out of sticks, I believe, and got caught out and went off and hit the barriers quite heavily, so she was hospitalized overnight. She's back now in Belgium,
right, but
the entry was withdrawn, so I don't think there's another female who was of a suitable I suppose status right now. They could just pulled back in again. Great disappointment that the Iron Dames Lambo was not going to be racing here this weekend.
Because they'd already lost Dorian Pan, hadn't they, from
another injury,
because of an injury in the F1 Academy a month or two ago. There, though, is Franck Pereira in the Mountain Wolf liveried Lamborghini. This is the car that is run out of the Grasser Racing Team stable. Jordan Pepper, Marco Mappelli, the other two drivers. Oh, and a big spin for 61 Porsche that's found itself in the gravel, and it's well and truly
EBM.
beached. Yeah, now who's at the wheel of that for Q2?
Well, that's not Earl Bamber. I would like to think it's not Earl Bamber.
I will offer you Adrian De Silva.
Garong Lai.
I think Adrian De Silva should be behind the wheel. That's brought out a yellow flag, but I can't see what have we got left. Just under 3 minutes. This might end up being a red flag to end the session because you're not going to be able to do an outlap and a timed lap before the flag if it were red flagged and restarted, and it's in a dangerous place if it's in the gravel, you would have thought. So there it is. Anybody that, yes, you've got to slow down under a yellow flag anyway. That pretty much is the end of Q2, isn't it? No one can go quicker while that car is in the gravel bed like that.
I think you're spot on.
And you were right about Karong Lee. They've done a switch on the driver order, therefore.
Interesting. We don't often see a car get into the gravel If it's going to go into the gravel, it's going to go off big time. That looks like it's just had a spin and ended up, and Jules Gounon once again, concentration, focus on when he gets into the car.
Red flag, John, just quickly to mention. So Jules Gounon, knows that that session has kind of unravelled. And where is number 2 Mercedes as he gets himself ready? 17th, Lucas Stoltz did the time. So Jules Gounon will go next. 2 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock. I can't see that being restarted.
No, it's not. It's going to be get the car in, and nobody can do a time in 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
Session will not be resumed. Now confirmation on the timing screen.
No, I think that was what we would locally describe as a no-brainer.
Indeed, indeed.
And again, look at the gravel as they come out of that sort of, I mean, all around the racetrack, lots and lots of gravel.
Caron Lee in the gravel. Let's listen in.
Yeah. Did you touch them there or just in the gravel? Okay, copy.
So Caron Lee having to explain to the El Bamba team what he did wrong, and Adrian De Silva, El Bamba and Brendan Leach, the other drivers. It's a competitive car, that. Caron Lee, we've seen racing in Europe before in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. He's been to Spa on a number of occasions, came out of Clio Cup China. There, Charles Weerts, without the hat, Sheldon van der Linde with. Looking to see what Dries Van Thor did in that session in number 32 BMW, and only 25th. But the margins between cars are crazy. 13 thousandths, 15 thousandths, go down a little bit further. 3 thousandths, Dries Van Thor ahead of Ulysse de Pauw, and Dries Van Thor 1,000th of a second behind Al-Faisal Al-Zubar. It is incredibly competitive, all this.
I mean, it's basically nuts.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, the level of competitiveness, and of course you have to add into that the success of balance of performance, to get all these cars so close together, because all it does is, oh wow, a pretty rude way of dragging the Porsche out. I think it might have been in gear. Now he's got a release. He's got the car. The rear wheels are rotating, and the fronts are not. The fronts, he's got the. I don't know. He's got the front brakes, and I can't believe he has. Look at the gravel that's going to be dragged onto the track here. So the marshals are going to be kept busy brushing that gravel away from the edge of the circuit. Look at the state of the car. And hopefully when he starts his process back to the pits, he does stay offline and doesn't deposit all that gravel on the racing line.
130, which is the Mercedes of Danny Juncadella, Frederic Vesti and Ralph Aaron, is heading to the pit lane with a damaged front splitter. It may therefore have to go into its box. Frederic Vesti at the wheel, rookie in the Spa 24 Hours.
But ain't any rookie. Mercedes young test driver, whatever. So Fred Vesti's been parachuted in and brings a new experience, I think, in his racing career. I don't think he's driven a car with a roof on it ever in his life.
Just to remember what he did at Le Mans, he was in an LMP2 car.
Oh, was
so
it? Okay. So he has driven with the roof on, yeah.
Only relatively recently.
Yes, 72 weeks ago. So there is the 93 Sky Tempesta, Jonathan Wee. That car in this session, looking to see where the Ferrari was, and now just timing and scoring. That was 28th by Jonathan Wee in that session we've just seen. So session 2 is over, waiting for session 3 to get underway. Still waiting for the Porsche to make its way back to the pits, and then allow the team to get the vacuum cleaners out and clear the residue of gravel and dust and whatever else has been picked up.
Alessio Rivera's time, half a second quicker than Arthur Rougier. So even though it's busier, the car's a bit lighter, and we know that Alessio Rivera is quick, but very quick indeed he was there. We've got, of course, the time in Q2 for Caron Lee, all of the times being cancelled because he caused the red flag. So this is another reason to try and put the pressure on the drivers not to make mistakes. If you do make a mistake and we need to stop the session, you'll lose your lap times.
Yes, that's a pretty big deterrent, but I don't think a driver necessarily goes out of his way to make a mistake. It happens. But I think looking at Rivera, set that time very early on his run. I suspect a brand new set of Pirelli tyres. And if you can get on your first flying lap, a clear flying lap, you will get a solid time that will put you to the front, which is what Rivera did. And a 2:15.382 is a pretty impressive time, followed by 1:63, which is the Lamborghini. So the Lamborghini got to the races in the end, the Grasser Racing, and that's Frank Pereira, Marco Mappelli, and Jordan Pepper. So
at the end of the session, Alessio Rivera the fastest from, in the end, Frank Pereira, Mathieu Jaminet third, Mauro Engel fourth from David Vidales, Raffaele Marcello sixth, then Mathieu Drudi, Arjun Maini, Augusto Farfus and Aïtchen Guven. Philip Eng, of course, with Nick Yellerly, Marco Wittmann, part of that winning team of last year, 11th from Christopher Haase, Jackson Evans, Dean McDonald and Paul Everard. Gold top time 77 then. Arjun Maini, along with Yusuf Ovega and Michele Beretta, they set, or at least Arjun Maini set the top time. All the classes set to be really competitive in this, and what we're looking at now is that average. So not necessarily the Q2 order, but the order as you combine the times. You see some of the names very welcome back, like Dennis Lind for the Haas RT team. Bronze Cup fastest, it's still going the way of Smalley, Ramos, Pret and Kirchhofer. And a little bit further down the order, number 35th, the 992 Porsche, Kevin Estre, Patrick Pillet, Lawrence Vanthorpe. That never really got going, nor did the Alex Malikian, Joel Sturm, Klaus Bachler entry. Silver, number 10, is the fastest of the Mercedes in the class, fastest outright in the class. Aurelien Panis, Cesar Gazzo, Rue Meerhouse and Sebastian Bode doing the driving work there. And Pro-Am, Alex Buncombe, Josh Cahill, their times putting that car ahead of the class opposition. So we have the drivers set for Q3. That'll be getting underway shortly. First up though, let us hear from Michelle Gatting, who ain't racing, but is here supporting Jules Gounon, and Ryan Marine is with her.
We should have seen the Iron Dames in action here this weekend at Spa. Unfortunately, that wasn't possible. Michelle Gatting joining us, your teammate Sarah Bovey, big accident at Watkins Glen last week. First of all, is she doing all right? And then second of all, it's a shame not to see you in the car here this weekend.
Yeah, for sure, it was a big one. Sarah is at home right now watching, I know, together with her dog Indy. She's recovering, and I just saw she's back on the bike today, getting ready for hopefully next week. But yeah, it was scary to see her teammate and friend in such an accident. Most importantly, she's okay, but it was the safest and the best decision to pull out of this race, unfortunately.
So no driving for you, but you still have an important role this weekend. What is it?
Yeah, I have to be here as a supporter. Jules came to surprise me in Le Mans, and I had the choice of going home, obviously, but yeah, I'm here to support him the best I can, and of course the Iron Lynx team. I prefer standing here. I just said it to you before, in a race suit. It's not the case this weekend. Now I can go a little bit around the track and enjoy a bit more, have a rest weekend, and prepare for the upcoming races.
Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you very much.
So Michelle Gatting, good to see you here. Shame she's not behind the wheel of the car as you look at the car that is thus far the fastest, Alessio Rivera. Number 130, Frederic Vesti in that Grupper M Mercedes. The team asking if they can have permission to repair the floor. So whatever he did to the splitter, he presumably has hit a curb pretty hard.
I mean, if you damage the splitter and then you've got damage to the floor, then you've hit something pretty heavy indeed, because those parts are solid carbon fiber. They do not break easy in a Mercedes.
Now let's go back to the pit lane. Alessio Rivera, fastest in Q2, is with Antonio Rankin.
Alessio, congratulations, fastest man in Q2. The session finished early. Was there any more speed left in that car?
I have to say it was a good quali for us, a good starting point, considering all the job that we have done in the free practice and pre-quali. So yeah, the car felt really good. It was the first time with this condition, with the track so cool. So it was a bit different, the feeling with the car. But yeah, the important is to be there in P1 and keep going like this.
Now recently, Ferrari have had a pretty good reputation in 24-hour races like this. With changing conditions, do you think you'll do well this weekend?
Yeah, we will try the best as always. I think our car is really good on this track because it's a high-speed corners track and we have a lot of downforce. So it feels really good, but as I said, it's still super long, just Q2, so we'll see.
Of course, well, congratulations and best of luck.
Vera, Formula Abarth champion, Carrera Cup Italy champion, Italian GT Sprint champion, Italian GT Endurance champion, GTE AM champion in the World Endurance Championship. That's a talent.
You mentioned a brand I would love dearly to see back in motorsport.
Abarth.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes,
one of those iconic small engine performing outside of their, I just love little Abarths.
They supply engines, don't they, to F4 single-seaters, but it'd be good to have them building. I can see them in GT4. Anyway, let's go to Q3 because the green flag has waved, the circuit's getting busy, cars are out on track, and it is getting cooler, and therefore it is getting quicker. And now with, what have we got, 66 cars, all trying to get into the top 20 to get into Superpole. These are becoming really tight sessions.
I think we're going to see a few surprises. I think the surprises are going to be people that we would have predicted would be there are not going to be in the top 20, and that will, of course, again, the dynamic of what will happen on Saturday all the way through Saturday night, Sunday, with the potential of weather having a big impact on what will be the final outcome of the 24 hours itself. So you really want to get your pro cars to the front to give them the chance to go and race amongst themselves and not have to battle through some of the midfield pack all the way, maybe in the first hour, maybe first couple of hours.
Davide Rigon has taken over 51, there it is, and he'll be out on track shortly. Everybody, of course, runs on a Pirelli tyre in this series. There is 92 Porsche, which has now gone from Jam to Cam. It is now Matt Campbell at the wheel of the Herbert entry, coming down towards the chicane. So it's Jam, Cam, Mac, Fred Makovici, the third driver. But here comes Matt Campbell then.
He's got to nail it. He's done his out lap, he's got himself prepared, he's got the tyres hopefully into the window that he feels they want to be in. There is traffic ahead, maybe about 3-4 seconds down the road, yeah, about that. And look at the rubbish on the exit of La Source. So he needs to be careful picking his way through, not to run over too many of those. Now down the hill, picking up speed. Is he brave? You can believe he's plenty brave. Flat as a pancake all the way through Eau Rouge, up over the top of Radio, not having to thread the needle with cars coming out of the pit lane, and there's a line of cars all the way on the right-hand side. Now they're beginning to blend over to the left of the racetrack, and that's going to compromise Matt Campbell. He's gotten past all but one of them, so he'll be pleased with that. So wait to see what his first sector time is going to produce.
Traffic an issue in this. Traffic will be an issue in the race, of course, as well. But he's done a purple sector, an absolute best then within sector 1. He darts around the outside of the traffic going in towards Bruxelles. And now the road drops down and down and down. Not all the way to the end of the lap, but for the majority of it, out of Speaker's Corner, the so-called Jackie X corner, and then down towards Pouhon. Really busy behind him as well, isn't it? As Jaminet, having given the car to Matt Campbell, watches in the pit lane. Campbell flings it into Pouhon, rides the curb on the outside line, drills it the other side and powers out.
So he was fortunate with traffic all the way up through into Les Combes. Now two further cars directly ahead of him coming to one of the tighter parts of the circuit into the entry into Campos, and then from there the long run up the hill into Blanchimont. So he will be seeking cooperation from these two cars who are travelling slower, well, you say slower, it's only marginally slower than the Porsche. Fastest middle sector overall. His first sector time has been eclipsed, so he's got a personal best, but he's still got that fastest middle sector. Now that final sector up through Blanchimont, flat again as he can push the foot against the firewall and comes out of it, and plenty of room to spare.
Should be okay. The car ahead just gets out of the way, slows right down, sees him coming, and he has to dive bomb the traffic because he cannot waste a tenth of a second, but he's hesitated behind 163 Lamborghini. That's all it takes to ruin the lap.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't know whether those cars were going to commit, to cut across and take their line. So 2:18.9, and that he probably lost half a second, simply out of that little lift because of his uncertainty as what those other cars in the chicane were going to do.
Just seen Nicky Tim in 007. Matt Campbell did a 2:15.839, but it should have been quicker, really, but for encountering the traffic at the end. But they're going to encounter traffic on every lap for the weekend, really, so get used to it. Here comes Nicky Tim. This, this number 7 Aston Martin could well be the dark horse here.
I was going to say, they've got a light bar on the front of the Aston just above the... I mean, I don't know whether that's to spread the beam outwards to the left and to the right, but I tell you what, when it catches the camera lens, it nearly melts it.
Drivers were saying at Le Mans in broadcast that it doesn't matter how good your lights are on the race car, as soon as you get into a hard car and leave the circuit, the lights always feel better. Never is it perfect for a driver, but that, as you say, really does spread the lighting around the front of the racetrack from the Aston. So Nicky Tim is the quickest, 2:15.551, as you look there at Davide Rigon, who was slightly unsettled coming into the pit path in the Ferrari.
So just getting settled again, so exits out of the Fagna, Piff Path, whatever you care to call it, into Campus, so just be careful on the exit, don't run too wide. Well, the following Lamborghini did, and again, further up, Vincent Abril, fastest middle sector, and now he's cleared the traffic. Can he get into the, oh wow, did he ever chuck that in? I've never seen Vincent so aggressive as he threw the Ferrari in, literally the back end. It felt like it was on a stone on the end of a chain just being swung around.
Thomas Neubauer, David Vidal is the other drivers of that car. Let's have another look in super slow-mo then at Vincent Abril, the Monegasque driver, riding the curb and then flicks the back in, rally style, opposite lock.
I mean, look at, you can see the amount of energy going to that left rear as the car reacted to being literally chucked. Look at the headlights in the Ferrari. Now those are beams on the left and right, they spread out at 45 degrees. The main beams give direct light ahead. Ferrari have done a lot of good work on getting a lot of illumination for their drivers.
You're looking there at 97 Porsche, and that's heading towards the line. Matt Campbell behind, though, behind on the lap, I should say, is not going any quicker because he's dropped time in the middle sector. There is Matt Campbell, and as he goes across the line, the lap is a slow one, and the average is a 2:15.839. So stays third. Vincent Abril now up to the top of the times, 2:15.249. Best of the session, best of the day. Augusto Farfus looks on there.
Yeah, best of the BMWs is Maxime Martin in the 46. That's the Valentino Rossi car, as well as being the car for Raffaele Marcello. So looking who has improved, I think the number 23 Porsche may be one of those improvers. Yeah, I think it might have been.
Interesting that they're keeping Rossi for Q4.
Yes.
Right at the very end. I think that shows you the level at which he now races, he now drives at.
The team were extremely complimentary about Valentino today when I did a little drive-by. Maxime Martin is the third driver in that three-driver lineup, and of course he is he's got Spa written through him like a piece of Bognor Regis rock.
Won the event in 2016. His father, of course, a multiple winner. His uncle, a winner of the event. So the Spa 24 Hours to the Martin family, a hugely important event. And there is Maxime, who's been a works driver for Aston and BMW, and now back to BMW. We've got Laurin Heinrich up to second overall in 22 Porsche, going nicely as Maxime Martin breaks the beam, doesn't improve.
Jules Gounon, likewise, in the number 4 Mercedes, has put himself up into number 2 Mercedes, I beg your pardon, up into 4th position. So in the last lap, literally, there's been 2 significant changes. 2 pro cars really moving up into where we would have assumed they would have been. As down the hill goes Maxime Martin. Okay, it's difficult, we don't get that. I want to hear the note, the engine note, because this revised, repaved Spa-Francorchamps circuit is delivering up a lot more grip, and drivers are loving it.
And there is Nicky Tim, who is now third in the times. Marco Sorensen will take over that car. And Aston Martin, I think you could say, quietly confident about a good result. The Come To You team running Aston's, learning about the cars, but gelling neatly as the year has gone on. And this car looks far pacier now than it did at Paul Ricard back in April. They've come a long way.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a major learning curve for Come To You Racing. They've gone from having great success with the Audis to an entirely different concept, mid-front engine car, a car that they're sort of developing on the hoof, both at that sprint, at the endurance round, but then subsequent sprint rounds. And sprint rounds, you don't really get an awful lot of chance. It's really Paul Ricard. There's a 3-hour race this year. Here, 24 hours. By the time you get here, you'll be a lot further down the road than you were at the beginning of the season.
So 007 comes to the chicane. This lap for Nicky Tim should be a good one. Very much an Aston Martin specialist, having had many, many years with the team. But of course, he's a Carrera Cup champion and raced Audis for a time as well. Goes through, but not an improvement on that lap. What about Laurin Heinrich in 22 Porsche? He's in that last sector, but was down in the middle on that last lap. You can see from that drone shot how much work has gone on at Spa in recent years with the reprofiling of the banking for the spectators, with the very patriotic colouring on the curbs there, lots of dust being kicked up on the exit of Speaker's Corner. Big flash of the lights from the I think that was the Crowdstrike Mercedes. Nick Katzberg had got it up to the top of the times earlier on. David Fuminelli here in number 8 Ferrari. He's got a lot of work to do at the minute because that car's way back, 39th in the times.
So looking at the 48 Mercedes, and that is Daniel Morad has gone second quickest, just a tenth and a bit behind Vincent Abril. So that's a good run for the Mercedes AMG Team Man Filter.
And this
I said it all in one breath.
You did. Didn't miss a beat. David Fuminelli here. This is the car that's leading the Bronze Cup in the Championship in Europe in Fanatec GT. But he's about to lose track position to 97. That goes storming by. The Rutronic Porsche. We saw Dustin Blattner out in it. It's Dennis Marshall, Loic Hartog and Zach Robuchon as the other two drivers. And now as the light really does fade, the light is working overtime, heading towards us at the chicane. There is Daniel Morad in number 48. That's the man that's fastest then. The Formula BMW Americas champion from many years ago.
But we've got a Ferrari lockout. Davide Rigo on the 51 has gone within 95 thousandths of a second of Vincent Abril. He's done that time towards the end of a session, whereas Abril's was on maybe about 3 laps earlier. So the pace of the Ferrari, we heard from Rivera earlier saying this is a circuit that suits the Ferrari high-speed corners. They've got a really good car, a lot of downforce in that Ferrari 296 chassis.
3 minutes on the clock as there is Daniel Morad coming up now to the chicane. Accelerates clear of it, up past the pits. Some of the teams, of course, based in the F1 pits, others down in the endurance pits, the bottom pits. But Daniel Morad's lap time was a bit slower again, so he's still third on the average. But it does seem, doesn't it, that the majority of times tend to be done early. That's when the Pirellis work best.
Yes, well, I suspect everybody's running either an extremely fresh set or a brand new set, depending which driver it is behind the wheel. And you do your out lap, and you have to find that one clear lap to nail the potential the tire will give you. And once you've established that, then you can afford to back off, regroup, give the tire a chance to recover. And if you get another clear lap, then have another go. And sometimes you can improve.
Jules Gounon, 9th fastest at the moment. Number 2 Mercedes, there it is, in the sort of highlighter pen colours, the bright yellow. Look at all the gravel that's been dragged onto the circuit. That's people going wide at La Source and just bringing it back onto the circuit.
I mean, that is pretty bad. And I don't know what the circuit could do about it other than in the little gap there is between this session number 3 and session 4, whether they can clear any of that away. But certainly, obviously, once the race gets underway, there will be a lot of gravel being deposited onto the racetrack, along with lots of other rubbish, mainly tire rubber and, well, probably bits of carbon fibre at some point also. Dennis Marshall.
Looks quite dark from that
working
shot,
hard.
doesn't it?
He's having to work hard coming through Blanchimont.
Traffic up the road, and he's not going to be able to clear that, is he? He's going to close right up under braking.
The McLaren got really right under the front splitter there of the Porsche.
So Dennis Marshall, 36th on the aggregate. There going through ahead of him is the Mercedes and the McLaren, and gravel still lying on the road. 71 is in then, Vincent Abril bails. There's no point staying out to the very end if you can't improve. You can come in, put your next driver in, get him settled, get the tyres on, get ready, use the time constructively.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a stunning job. They've got a small advantage, but it's over his sister Ferrari. So Vincent Abril has done his job, and now it'll be in the hands of the 71 Ferrari, and I'm just looking down to see what it is behind the wheel. It should be Thomas Neubauer.
Should be, quite right. So Thomas Neubauer to go next. Other drivers at the orange one, Trésor Attempto team, get themselves ready. Davide Rigon staying out there in the car that he will give way to Alessandro Pierguidi. Absolutely, I thought you might be impressed with what this car can do late on. Oh, problem for the Aston.
Was that a spin, or is there a technical problem? We just caught it. It looks as if we think it may have just pulled over to the right. No obvious reason, so hopefully that car can continue. So we're watching Davide Rigo, but showing nothing in the first 2 sectors, and therefore I suspect that Davide Rigo is going to come into the pits at the end of this lap. I don't see the point in staying out.
Multicoloured Lamborghini here, heading up towards the chicane. some drivers will stay out because they just want the track time. Adam Smalley was saying that although he'd driven here last week in British GT, he hadn't done anything today because the car was, with all the stoppages in free practice, he just never got into it. David Irigon does stay out though, intriguingly.
Yep, he's got one more lap.
Yeah.
There's just 2 minutes or 1 minute 50 to go, so he'll come across the line and can complete that lap, a flying lap. So Marco Mappelli in the 163 Lamborghini, and again looks very purposeful as it comes through racing. Now, people assume that racing colours of Italy are actually red, but they're not. That's much more the Les Bleus,
okay,
which is maybe more French than it is Italian. But that's the natural sporting colours of Italy, I understand.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure somebody will correct me, but I believe that is the case.
Well, the flag is out, so those drivers that are on track now completing a lap and then the in-lap. There's about 5 minutes given the length of the circuit here from the checkered flag falling to the next part of qualifying getting underway. Fabrizio Crestani here in trouble 3, 45th in the times, but pushing on, seeing what he can do. Drivers that don't do well in qualifying tell you it doesn't matter in a 24-hour race. Drivers that do well in qualifying say it's very important.
Excuse me, Vicar. I remember a young racing driver who happens to be Belgian.
Yes.
Who happens to be called Jackie Ickx.
Yes.
Who in 1969, in deference to the introduction of seatbelts, chose in a Le Mans start, a national start, to walk across the racetrack, get into his Ford GT40, attach his seatbelts, and then took off about half a minute or longer behind the rest of the field. Who won the race?
Jackie Ickx.
Correct.
I thought he sauntered across in protest to the Le Mans start and to prove a point.
He was proving a point.
Yeah.
I mean, Jackie liked to prove points.
Yes.
But he didn't want to sucker for what every other racing driver was doing, which is trying to get off that Le Mans grid before everybody else and then go down the Mulsanne straight trying to attach a 6-point or a 4-point seatbelt. So he did it his way. He made the point, and he consolidated that point by taking victory by beating Hans Hermann in the factory Porsche 908.
And Jackie Ickx will be, if you like, the Grand Marshal. He will start the race on Saturday here. The legendary Belgian, all part and parcel of the centenary celebrations for the 76th running of the 24 Hours of Spa. Lucas Auer will take over number 48 for just a quarter of an hour.
Well, Lucas, a quarter, rather than calling him an hour, was a real star at Misano.
Absolutely.
He put a performance in the Mercedes that I think got a lot of people thinking.
And Brands Hatch as well.
And Brands as
Pole position, race win. They're the Farfus Harper Hesse car that won at Paul Ricard, the other Rover Racing entry, but in the BMW Bank colours.
Which BMW was Dan Harper in when he won, or whatever was? Didn't he win at Nürburgring in the end, the 24 hours or whatever they ran? I thought he did something. He did something, maybe he had pole position.
I think you might be right.
At pole position. He did something mighty anyway at Nürburgring.
But he's a bit of a specialist of that place, having done the NLS as a...
Don't spoil a good
I'm not spoiling at all.
He's a lovely little boy from Belfast, from Northern Ireland.
To the times. Vincent Abril and David Vidal's combined efforts put them top ahead of Alessio Rivera and David Irigon. Mauro Engel and Daniel Morad are next ahead of the Jamcam, Matt Jaminet, Matt Campbell car. From Pereira, Marco Mappelli 5th, and Ancient Guven and Lauren Heinrich are 6th. Still the best of the gold is the Haupt Racing Team entry number 77. That car having been driven by Arjun Maini, Josef Vega, and will soon be driven by Michele Beretta. Also, we need to keep an eye on what's going on in silver and in Pro-Am and in bronze, where the best of the bronzes is number 188, Adam Smalley, Miguel Ramos, Louis Pret, and Marvin Kirchhofer, the 4 drivers. And the other classes will come to as the teams get themselves ready to go out on track. Q4 then coming up. Silver being headed by the Winward Mercedes 57, that is the championship leading Pro-Am entry. One in Paul Ricard, Tana Saturin-Tirokul, Colin Carasani, and Dan Arrow, the drivers. Dan Pyle as was, Dan Arrow as he calls himself now. And the Dutch driver, always one to watch around here. Very quick, very underrated driver. And in Pro-Am, it is number 16 of the pseudonymed Rio. Karl Ma, David Pun, Kevin Say, and Indy Donja, the drivers, the Uno Racing Team with Landgraf entry. Kevin Say, we know he's good from not just World Challenge Europe, but also British GT. But Vincent Abril has done a very, very good job in that most recent session. Fastest for Ferrari 71, and Vincent is with Antonia.
Fastest in Q3. Are we going to be seeing a course on the top this weekend?
Yeah. On a personal side, I'm very happy to be able to be fast, because I had a tough build up to the weekend, to be honest. I've been a bit ill, so the team has been absolutely amazing throughout the whole process of not letting me drive too much and resting me for this moment, because if it was up to me, I'll be in the hotel right now, and you know, just to do the minimum mandatory job. But yeah, the team is, you know, I've always said that it's the best team for me to perform. I feel at home here, whether it's on and off the track, and the car was absolutely amazing. I wasn't thinking too much when I was driving, to be honest. I was more focused on trying to stay alert, but yeah, the car was great, and we've got a great momentum for a long 24-hour race.
Absolutely. Well, you've done a great job, and hope you feel a bit better soon. Thank you.
Yeah, hardly ideal, is it, going into a 24-hour race, feeling under the weather. But Vincent Abril will rise to the challenge. Look at that for a slide.
I mean, did he ever chuck the Ferrari into the chicane? I'm surprised he got the time, because, I mean, it looked spectacular on that wonderful slow-mo, but in the process, the way the car was sort of shuddering sideways, was scrubbing speed off at a dramatic rate, but clearly hit enough pace in the car to get it across the line, fastest of everybody in the field.
James Kell is being summoned to the stewards, but other Mercedes drivers, well, Daniel Morad going really well. He's with Ryan Marine.
So Daniel, super fast in that session, bringing this man-filter Mercedes a little bit closer to those two Ferraris. You were telling me off air, though, this track and these conditions with the repave, well, I'll let you put it in your words.
Yeah. I was telling you, and this might make people angry, but it was an A-tier track, okay? Low grip. Now with the repave, it's S-tier. It's incredible how much faster we are going this year, and the man-filter Mercedes is just on rails out there. Windward Racing gave me an awesome car for qualifying, and it was just fun. Those conditions are perfect. It's the driver's dream. You want to go out there. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a nightmare with traffic, and my lap was interrupted. But you know, nonetheless, it's fun. We're third on aggregate right now, and all that counts is getting into that top 20 shootout and see what we can do tomorrow.
All right, we wish you the best.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Daniel Morad then hands over to Lucas Auer as the green lights have gone on, so our final 15-minute blast of qualifying is underway. Then they've got night practice later on.
Yep, just interesting, Daniel, confirming what every driver that's been interviewed has said about this repaving of the circuit. It's, you know, the old surface, you know, you had a different level of, for example, slip angle in some of the high-speed corners. That slip angle is probably disappearing, and these cars are becoming much more follow the steering, and drivers are having to recalibrate their own sort of concepts of how am I going to go through Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Instead was, you know, you get the car in, it'll slide its way up the hill, just make sure you don't overrun the curb at Raidillon, and off you go up the Camel Straight. Now it's going almost following the steering the whole way through.
Big drop down for number 98 BMW, the car, the team that won last year, Rover Racing. Philipp Eng, Marco Wittmann, Nick Yellerly, all reunited once again. Can they do the double? Can they do it 2 years in a row? So the field streaming up to Les Camps. Looking out of our window, it doesn't look as dark as the pictures with the headlights make it feel, but it certainly has lost some of the natural light in the hour or so we've been on air.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's normally the camera that gives you a greater sense of light than the natural light that our eyes pick up. So down the hill, so let's ride on board with the number 4 Mercedes. Listen, listen, listen. Oh, you can hear it grinding its way up the hill, but that was as flat as a kipper. You could not be any more flat than that was. I mean, wonderful to be on board a car when it's so committed, so loaded, and that middle compression as you hit the bottom of Eau Rouge. Oh, almost overran into Les Camps. Had to make a correction and get the car back into the right part of the racetrack to exit now the run down into Bruxelles. So brings it in early, makes that sort of 2 apex style. Some hug the curb all the way around. So this, clip the curb on the exit again.
Very wide two wheels in the gravel, I reckon, at Speaker's Corner there. He's got away with it, but this lap's just starting to look a bit scrappy, maybe.
I think it's pushing that little bit too hard.
Pouon's okay, although he was a little bit wide. Stepped up the curb on the first element, out of the second. He's got traffic up the road as well. Colin Brown then up towards the pith path. Goes right, goes left next. Turns it in. Brief lift, flicks it across, back on the power. Short straight down towards Campus, and then the Paul Frere.
Should he be flat through Blanchimont? Well, he's into 6th gear. You could hear the front spinners go on the, as he had to get so up into the chicane, and again traffic ahead of him is going to destroy whatever lap. And the BMW is at the no, it's not the 46. I think it might be the 30. So that was a disappointment. I mean, it wasn't the greatest lap, but it probably deserved better than that last corner.
Yeah, 2:18.2, and then Martin Conrad behind it at 2:18.1. There's 64 Mustang. Mustang, John, Mustang.
Well, I was going to say Mustang Sally, but that was a different thing altogether. So the Mustang, let's listen to that V8 roar. Dennis Olsen behind the wheel, 6/10 up on a personal best. Hear it, listen. The rasp.
Wonderful, that.
Oh.
Just an epic noise.
You know what, it reminds me of putting a bit of cardboard on the spokes of my bicycle when I was a kid, sticking them in the brake blocks and you'd make a roar like a V12.
Simple pleasures. Dennis Olsen then, who of course made his name as a Porsche star, now very much part of this burgeoning Ford Mustang project, comes up towards the line then, the 2019 Intercontinental GT Challenge champion. He's gone fastest in this part of qualifying in this group, and the lap time then was 2:16.969. There's more to come as you look at number 911 go through.
Look at the gravel.
Let's listen in. Number 64, the Mustang. So the audio will try to come back to, apologies for that, but Klaus Bachler we're looking at, number 911, accelerates up the hill. And the Mustang, having backed off, gets out of the way. Klaus Bachler, number 911. Drama there for 159. That's come to grief up at Les Combes. That's Tom Gamble at the wheel of the Garage 59 McLaren. He's trying to get it started again and has just about done so. Now he needs a gap in the traffic.
Of course, he has difficulty in seeing anything.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to feel his way back on. But just a chain of cars coming through, and he's just being very patient.
But he'd stalled again because the lights went off. Hopefully there'll be a marshal there that can go with a thumbs up and give him the clue, give him the signal. Tommaso Mosca for Ferrari, now an absolute best in the first sector.
And that's a significant gain, just a quarter of a second ahead. Currently it's the number 7 Aston Martin in the come to you, so it'll be Marco Sorensen, who's done a 2:15.6, I think it is. Not the quickest lap overall, but the quickest so far in the session. So Tommaso Mosca, let's see what he can do. He's got a personal best middle sector. And again, the danger will be coming up through Blanchimont. He's got 2 cars ahead of him, which hopefully won't affect this lap.
We've not seen
it's
much.
going to be marginal. It's going to be marginal.
Yeah, you're right. We've not seen much of Mosca this year in Fanatec GT, but he did win the Italian GT Endurance Championship last year. Heads up towards the line, and let's see what this is going to do. 2:15.6 to beat. Goes through. Red lights, red flag, with 7 minutes to go. That is enough time to get things back underway, and I fear this might be for the McLaren. It's there, it's 1:59, so Tom Gamble has got going, but it's clearly got a problem. He's managed to get from the outside of Les Combes across the road, which wasn't easy. There's gravel everywhere there as well.
It's a mess. I mean, the amount of gravel, I've never seen so much gravel on this circuit at this phase of a weekend. So he's got it on limp home mode. and you can see it stuttering and just and it's a horrible feeling when the car.
What's he doing?
Pardon?
What's he doing?
You know what I was doing, David. I'm well known for that.
You should have seen the actions, everybody. Tom Gamble is trying to limp the car around. So the red flag, I think, was because he was in a precarious place at the top of the hill. He has subsequently got going, but equally, the car is as precarious when it's. How did you do it? Up, around the circuit.
Yeah, I'll do it when I'm on camera, not do it off. It's much better on camera. Anyway, so we've all now got to wait for the field to make their way back into the pit lane, not least of all Tom Gamble. But since everybody's got to come back at 80 kilometers per hour, 50 kilometers per hour into the pit lane, and then all go again with 7 and a bit minutes remaining.
So now, of course, the interest is into who is in that top 20, who goes into Superpole tomorrow evening. Well, Lawrence Vantor missing out at the minute. Rob Bell missing out at the minute. Pick up some other star names. The Alessio Picariello Porsche missing out. Mardenbrough's McLaren would be out as well. Lucas Auer, Alessandro Pierguidi, they need a good lap time. So the effectively 5 minutes. Take an outlap out of the equation. It's going to be less than 5 minutes, but it's going to be a real dash, isn't it, to the flag?
I mean, it's going to be the worst scenario for all those drivers who probably hadn't established a time and thought we can do it in the closing minutes, and all of a sudden those closing minutes are going to be extremely difficult for everyone.
There is 46 BMW. Valentino Rossi having taken the car out, brought it back in.
What's the story of the change of colours? Is this a centenary tribute to Spa?
It is because it is the centenary event. They've gone for a different livery. I think they're trying to echo BMW liveries of the past here. You have a look there at the front. You'll see the and the side showing effectively what the mechanics inside the car are. They used to be, and you'll see it here in the paddock, the old BMW Originale Tyler, the original parts livery, which the paint scheme of the car was like a cutaway of inside, and they've kind of gone with that because that was another famous BMW livery when this was the European Touring Car 24
hours. There was a period
hours.
in the 70s when BMW employed world-famous artists.
That's right, the art cars for Le Mans.
There was Liechtenstein as one of them.
Yeah, Andy Warhol did one.
Something Calder, I don't know.
Yeah, Andy Warhol with the M1. Yeah. So the art cars for Le Mans, and then there was that, as I say, the original parts colour scheme that ran here.
And also one of the key people in the BMW lineup at that time is also here. I saw him yesterday, spoke to him, I don't know if he knew who I was, Jochen Neerpasch.
Really?
Gosh. So what are you doing here? Oh, I still have some little associations with the company. Always a bit of a secret squirrel, but anyway.
Having been at Ford and then BMW, Jochen Neerpasch. And possibly he's here having a look at some of the cars from Ford and BMW of years past in the Heritage Touring Car race that we'll bring you on Saturday morning, because that's another amazing entry.
Well, the quickest time was set by a CSL with one of the fantastic 3.5 4-valve per cylinder BMW engine. I mean, talk about howling.
Yes.
That's one you hear all around the racetrack.
The car 159, Tom Gamble, best lap time cancelled for causing that red flag, and he's not going to get back out again, so that session disappears. But that's a real kick, isn't it, for Garage 59? Because it looks like it's a mechanical and or electrical issue that stopped the car.
Hard to tell, just the way he managed to get it into limp home mode for a period, but he pulled it off, and that car now will not get back to the pits until the session ends, and of course the team will then want to get as soon as possible to solve the problem, because they want to do some nighttime practice. So the whole knock-on effect of one issue can bleed into a session later in the evening.
So there is the Charles Wirtz BMW number 32, another one you see with that Originale Tyler original parts colour scheme. As I say, it was a Schnitzer livery. There, Marco Sorensen, set to go back out in 007. This is the car that tops the times at the moment. The Come-To-You run car controller at the front, gets ready to release that. Fast lane not yet open then, so we await the resumption of the session.
The perennial debate are you better off in the top pits, the Formula One pits, or are you better off in the traditional, the heritage, historic pits, which is on that very, it's quite a steep decline. I don't know. I tell you what, if it rains during the race, I know which pit lane I'd rather be in.
Yes, indeed, and that's the top one.
You'll have a river running through it otherwise.
WRT always like to be at the pit out end of the top pits. They can sort of spread out a little bit there. One of their drivers, Valentino Rossi, ready to go back out. Session starts on short notice.
Okay, I try. Okay, I try.
So I think the instruction was push, and Valentino says, okay, I try. That's all he can say to the team, and out he goes.
What else could he say?
Yes. Fast lanes open. Session, as I mentioned, will restart on short notice. Temperature now 23 degrees. Look at that for a traffic jam. Multi-million euro traffic jam.
Oh, yeah.
What a shot.
I mean, it's absolutely a stunning image. I love that drone shot.
Yeah.
And the way the cars are lit in the pit lane. Absolutely, I think that just says something about all these cars in the pit lane.
159 is the reason for this stoppage. Benjamin Goethe, one of the drivers, might have heard more from Tom Gamble. If he has, he can tell us all about it, because Antonio Rankin down in the pit lane is with Benjamin Goethe.
Benji, there's a bit of an unfortunate incident out there. Hopefully the car will get back. Do you know what happened?
Not actually too sure at the moment. I think the car's actually just gone back out into the pit lane, so hopefully he can get a lap in now and yeah, try and get us towards the top 20, but yeah, not the qualifying we wanted so far. We'll see how Tom does now.
Other than that, it did look like the car had pace. Both of the Garage 59 cars were looking pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I had quite a scrappy session, but yeah, the other car, the bronze car, seems to be doing quite well, P5 at the moment, and yeah, obviously we got to try get towards the top 20, so not awful at the moment, but yeah, not ideal, that's for sure.
Of course. Well, let's hope it was okay. Thank you.
So news in short supply, or if it is in supply, Benjamin Goethe is keeping it close to his chest, but you can sense the frustration. We are back up and running, and we've got 5 3/4 minutes to go. So in these situations, you realise how much time you lose with an outlap.
Yes, it's a long lap. I mean, it's a 2 minutes and 15 at best on a flying lap, so you can add in another 15 or 18 seconds, depending where you are in the pit lane. If you're in the Formula One pits, it's even longer. So that's where there is an advantage. If you're on the declining, the historic pit lane at the very bottom of it, you're first out on the racetrack, you'll get that maybe benefit of another 15 seconds over a competitor.
So again, some weaving to get the warmth back into the Pirelli tyre. There is number 4. That's Colin Brown's Mercedes coming up to the chicane. Again, that fantastic drone shot showing you the lights working, the lines the cars take, the nature of the circuit.
I mean, you look at that, you think that's sim racing.
Yeah.
It's just the way the lights, when you see them there, they just bleach out the camera lens. But from that drone shot, it's an amazing image of a race car or race cars.
It makes Spa look flat. Trust me, it absolutely is not. Lucas Auer out of La Source then. Picks up his skirt, so to speak. Presses on now. Number 48 Mercedes, only 41st. We've also got number 2, which is now being given to Lucas Stolz, isn't it? After Jules Gounon did the work in the most recent part of qualifying.
Look at the tarmac. Beginning, a sheen beginning to appear just at the point where the compression really catches the cars. Now, did you do a lap of the circuit yesterday or this morning?
No.
So you have no idea whether the grip levels are what they were last year, or I mean, I just need first-hand experience.
Well, people that did do a track walk tell me that it's still quite tacky to your foot. It's quite sticky still. But no, this year I didn't do a run around, I'm afraid. Got here too late yesterday.
Look at the cloud of dust being kicked up there by the Mercedes. Was that Lucas Auer did that?
Or was it that?
No, I think that was the one before.
Okay, well, that's Lucas Auer there.
Yes.
So ahead of him, I think, was Stolz, wasn't it?
Whoever it was kicked up a load of dust. I mean, that'll kick a load of gravel onto the circuit as well. So if it was Lucas Stolz, Lucas Auer would be the one that would have had to deal with it. Ooh, that little snap oversteer there coming into Pujol.
And he's still trying to break in if he can to, well, I was going to say the top 20. The top 40 would be a start because this car is way, way down.
mean, so far in this session, we're not. The best Mercedes is the number 10 is down at 16th position. No, I beg your pardon, it's the number 9 is in 7th, so just hard to see the timing and scoring as the Boots and VDS car, Ulysses Depot, Thomas Drouet and Maxi Goetz. So Mercedes are not, as we had expected, probably at the 4. It's really been very much a day of Ferrari, albeit that we've got an Aston Martin right now as quickest, followed by 2 Porsches, followed by an Aston Martin, and then the 188 Mercedes, 188 McLaren.
Another car that's going to be worth watching is 28 Audi. Dennis Lind at the wheel. Welcome back, Dennis Lind, who we always get excited about for good reason. Lucas Au now goes fastest on a 2:15.371, and that puts 48 Mercedes at the very top of the times. And Lukas Stolz has gone 4th. So that top 20 is now being shuffled.
And faith is restored in the Stuttgart manufacturer, and they've got that car where they had hoped it would be all the time, but it's nervous moments with very limited time and a very busy track at the same time.
Max Hesse, championship leader, Fanatec GT Europe Endurance. He is 10th fastest. The average time, 2:16.007. Can't have a BMW doing 007. It's got to be an Aston Martin to do that, surely. But coming out of the pit path, now down towards campus, comes Max Hesse. And he's doing okay for traffic on this lap, isn't he, as the clock ticks on down with just 93 seconds and counting.
Yes, so I mean, I don't know how you can manage traffic on such a long lap with such a large field, and ultimately it just comes down to be right place, right time, and just hope that you've got your tyre in that, you know, optimum position. Comes through Blanchimont, good clean exit, down 1.1 seconds in that middle sector. It was up fractionally in sector 1, so it's unlikely we're going to see any significant movement forward for the currently 13th position. So Hesse comes across the line, stays 13th.
Alessandro Pierguidi goes quickest. Jordan Pepper goes 2nd. So you've got Ferrari versus Lamborghini at the top of the times now. The 2 Italian brands getting themselves up there. There's Lucas Au trying to fight back. Arguably, this session is about being in the top 20, but every driver wants to make sure they're as close to the top because that gives you a little bit of comfort.
Yes, and when you go into that shootout, if you're going to go last, you'd like to think that you're going to get the best of track conditions. So that's where the benefit of being overall quickest in this 4-session qualifying is vitally important.
But Jordan Pepper, 163 Lamborghini, that was the car we saw Franck Pereira in. Marco Bappelli has had a go behind the wheel as well. That's another competitive bit of kit. Lukas Stolz goes through. He's down to 8th, so the order is still shuffling.
There is Jordan Pepper. So he is pushing. He needs to find 29 thousandths of a second to end up, or claiming, fastest overall, but he's got personal bests. So there is a possibility that the Lamborghini could actually eclipse the 51 Ferrari as comes down through Blanchimont. So he's now hoping that he gets up into the chicane and he gets a clear run through the entry, but more critically, the exit. So the traffic ahead, that Audi isn't going to be in play. So it's all now in Jordan Pepper's hands. Can he do something to steal the quickest time? He has.
Goes fastest on a 2:14.903. Really good effort, that. 2:14.903 then for Jordan Pepper.
Martin Kirchhofer just looking at right now in the 188 McLaren.
So Audi, Ferrari, Lamborghini, the cars that have topped the times. This is Martin Kirchhofer for Garage 59 in 188. And that car is currently 12th. Carl Grenier goes through there in the Almanar Racing entry. Another quick Canadian who comes up towards the timing line after he's come out of here, Paul Frere and then Blanchimont. So Jordan Pepper by 46 thousandths from Pierguidi, Lucas Au 3rd, Thomas Neubauer 4th, Marco Sorensen 5th, Thomas Preining 6th, Dorian Boccolacci 7th. Porsches there or thereabouts, even if they haven't really caught the attention in this session.
Well, you've got 3 in the top 10, so while they're not at the top of the top 10, they're in the heart of that group of cars. So there's a little bit further work to do, but you know, if they can get through the session and remain in the top 10, as Kierhofer comes through, remains in 12th position, and behind you got Hesse in the BMW, Maximilian Goertz, Marco Wittmann, Barella, Mirko Bortolotti in 63 Lamborghini, again 17th position. We would have thought that that car would be one that would be certainly in the top 10.
One car that has disappointed in this is 992 Porsche, 44th, Kevin Estre, Patrick Pilet, Laurens Vanthoor. And unless Laurens can do anything amazing on his his last lap of this session, that ain't going to be one that threatens for Superpole at all. So that's going to be way, way back on the grid and puts itself in the first stint with a lot of cars to overtake, of course.
Yeah, and of course Kevin is, as an example of an overtaker, leaves nothing on the plate. It'll be stimulating to watch his efforts if they start outside the top 20 to see how quickly he can make progress and do so without, you know, committing, you know, putting himself into a danger zone. So I think it's going to be Jordan Pepper in the 163 Lamborghini that's going to end up quickest of all, as we're just about getting a checkered flag.
Well, delight for Lamborghini. That came out of the blue, didn't it? For Franck Pereira, Marco Mappelli and Jordan Pepper. Very, very happy team for 163. That car operated by Gottfried Grasser's squad. And Jordan Pepper, Sirocco Germany champion, winner of the Bathurst 12 Hours in 2020. He'll be a happy man, and quite rightly so. Well, I'm tempting fate in saying this, but a relatively drama-free qualifying session, which is good for the teams because they've now got to get the cars out again for night qualifying. So Franck Pereira, Marco Mappelli and Jordan Pepper will top qualifying. Remember, it's the top 20 teams that go into Superpole. Alessio Rovera, Davide Rigon and Alessandro Pierguidi second, ahead of Maro Engel, Daniel Morad, Lucas Auer. Then, this is a really interesting one, David Vidales, Vincent Abril and Thomas Neubauer, 3 young guns ahead of Matthew Drudy, Nicky Tim, Marco Sorensen, Jackson Evans, Joel Eriksson, Thomas Preining's Porsche, getting itself up to 6th ahead of Ian Guven, Laurin Heinrich and Dorian Boccolacci. Then Lucas Stoltz, Jules Grunot and Fabian Schiller ahead of Matthew Jaminet, Matt Campbell and Fred Makovici. 10th, another of the Astons, David Pittard, Ross Gunn and Enrique Chavez for Valkenhorst ahead of Paul Everard, Hugo de Wilde, Jim Pla and Gilles Magnus. Adam Smalley 12th, along with Miguel Ramos, Louis Pret, Marvin Kirchhofer. Also through to Superpole, Augusto Farfus, Dan Harper and Max Hesse. Elise de Pauw, Thomas Drouet, Maxi Goertz, Mercedes. Last year's winners only 15th, Philip Eng, Nick Yellerly and Marco Wittmann, ahead of Arjun Minor, Yusufa Vega and Michele Beretta. The Caldarelli Caroli Bortolotti, Lamborghini 17th, ahead of Leonardo Moncini, Lorenzo Patrese, Lorenzo Ferrari in 18th. You can see the class leaders, you can see out of position, some that you would have thought should have gone an awful lot better. For example, the Christopher Mies, Fred Vervies, Dennis Olsen Mustang only 31st in the end. And outside that top 40, the Kevin Estre, Patrick Pilet, Laurens Vanthoor Porsche, which I think is one of the big surprises of the session. Also missing out the Milroy, Radcliffe, Raider, Bell, McLaren. But with so many good drivers, said it before this year, we'll say it again no doubt, it's just impossible to have everybody up in that pointy end of the grid because something has got to give. And so with the likes of Loic Hartog starting at the back, well, the first hour promises to be very dramatic indeed. Kevin Say, Indy Doncher amongst those topping the times within Pro-Am. But delight for Jordan Pepper. You think he'd won the race, wouldn't you?
No, that was a great lap. I mean, he had a difficult lap time to eclipse. That was the 51 Ferrari, and he did it. And he got a little bit of a break with the traffic, but it doesn't matter. He made that car, he drove that car, and he got the time, and he should be delighted. He is delighted with his efforts.
So a happy driver, a happy team. Perhaps rather less so for Valentino Rossi, who gets out of the car, stalks away. 21st, so the first one to miss out, therefore, on Superpole. Disappointment for not just Valentino, but for his co-drivers. But a very happy Jordan Pepper. He is with Antonio Rankin. Let's hear from him.
Jordan, what a brilliant lap. Where did it come from?
No, I think we got super lucky because we went out so late that we were probably the only ones who still had new tires where everyone else got the red flag and could go out again. But the credit goes out to the team. They've been working day and night for weeks on end to put an amazing car together. And honestly, I can only thank them enough and thank my amazing teammates. You know, we have one goal. We're working really hard towards it. And yeah, the drivers, we just get the joy of driving such an incredible machine. So shout out to Lamborghini, shout out to Grasser Racing team, and shout out to my teammates Marco and Frank for also doing a great job.
Now we've got Superpole coming out tomorrow. How will you make this happen again?
Well, I mean, it's always good to start up front, but I'll give everything away if it means that we can win on Sunday. You know, this race has never been easy to me. I've always fought at the front for many years, but never quite crossed the finish line. So, yeah, good feeling today, but we got a lot of hard work ahead of us before the race, and what matters is Sunday afternoon, 4 o'clock.
Of course, and this is a great way to start the weekend. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
All smiles, Jordan Pepper. Understandably, all smiles. Really good lap, and the very distinctive blue Mountain Wolf Lamborghini, again, rattling the curb into the chicane.
Yes, and Gottfried
Grasser.
Yeah, Gottfried Grasser, who for many years sort of was the factory Lamborghini, then sort of stepped back a little bit, but now, I mean, to get a team together to put a car on that pole position.
What about Mauro Engel then? His car third. That's still getting the car into Superpole. Is Mauro happy? He's with Ryan.
Strong third for the Manfilter Mercedes from Windward Racing. Mauro Engel, you got a smile on your face, but that was a big lap from the Lamborghini. Were you surprised to see that?
Surprised, probably not. We saw they were quick earlier already. When you had the sectors together, you saw they were in the mix. But no, good session for us. Always one of those difficult moments of a 24-hour weekend. You can't win much, but you can lose a lot. So it's good to get through nicely into Superpole. Again, we want to be in Superpole and try and get a good grid slot, because obviously you minimize risk starting in the 24-hour race.
Who gets the task to qualify the car in the Superpole?
Luigi will be doing that. We're going to use his weight advantage to the best for us. Obviously, that's plays a small role, and obviously, he's always been good in qualifying. So he'll be doing that tomorrow for us, and hopefully get us the best possible starting place.
Hey, you take your advantage anywhere you can find it in a game this close. The field is super close this year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of drivers would trade for his body weight. Not necessarily his size. I hope he didn't hear that, but no, yeah, he's obviously a great guy, and I think he can take a joke.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Keep digging, Mauro.
I tell you what, I'm delighted Mauro made that comment. If I made the comment, I'd be suspended again.
Mauro Engel then gives the praise to Lucas Auer. We know he's quick, and Lucas Auer, who is short in stature, light in weight, but a demon racing driver, the nephew of Gerhard Berger. He will do Superpole then for the 48 Mercedes crew tomorrow. So some of the grid is decided. The top 20 places will be fought out in Superpole, where they have an out lap, 2 timed laps, and it's your quicker lap that you count, and then, of course, an in lap. What about Ferrari's chances? Alessandro Pierguidi is out of the car. He can talk about Q4 with us.
Congratulations, a P2 there. You've got a very strong team this weekend.
Yeah, it looks like we are quite okay. I know we are a good lineup, but this quali was being quite crazy actually, with the red flag, with the traffic at the end. More than the pure lap time, I think the classification is made by the traffic. The lap time was not incredible, but enough to be in a good spot for tomorrow, the Hyperpole, and it will be okay. We are working quite well this weekend, and let's see tomorrow in the Hyperpole.
With so many cars on the grid, how do you get into clean air to set a good fast lap?
I wasn't in a clean air. I just had a good tour, and that was helping me quite a lot in the high-speed section. But then in the mid-section, I had a lot of traffic, so I lost downforce. So at the end, there is always a compromise. But after the flag, I just had 2 laps, and I went. It was enough to be there.
Well, brilliant. Best of luck for the weekend. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Alessandro Pierguidi will fight, no doubt, for a win this weekend. We know he's a quality driver, Le Mans winner last year. Let's look at the highlights then of qualifying. We'd already had a look at the first element when it was slightly brighter in terms of light, and the cars were heavier on fuel, where McLaren and Ferrari slugged it out. Adam Smalley and Eddie Cheever being amongst those that shone early in the session. But Arthur Rougier was the man who topped the times at the end of Q1 for his CSA racing team. The operation putting the fastest driver in where the track being less busy and maximising him then. Mathieu Jaminet was impressive in Q2. The Porsche driver hustling on for Herbert Motorsport. Also going well was Franck Pereira in number 163 Lamborghini, and so too number 51 Ferrari that was being taken through to the top time ultimately by Alessio Rovera. Drivers got themselves ready for Q3, where Daniel Morad was one of the stars, up to third in the 48 Mercedes. Vincent Abril, though, hit the curb through the Ferrari up through the chicane and was fastest within Q3. And then with the track at its darkest, the temperature at its coolest, and the cars at their lightest, it was time for Q4, which was topped in the end by Jordan Pepper. Mercedes 48 would be third, Ferrari 51 would be second, and it was 163 Lamborghini of Jordan Pepper that topped the times. And that takes us to Superpole tomorrow evening, which we'll look forward to determine the top part of the grid. We'll see you tomorrow. For now, from all of us at Spa, good night.